Hi, my name is Andrea Radulescu, and in this video I will be discussing the arrival of Japanese picture brides into the United States beginning in the year 1908 and continuing through to the early 1920s. Prior to 1908, the majority of Japanese immigrants in the United States were single male sojourners who came to work in the United States for money and planned on bringing their earnings back home to Japan. At the time, there were very few female Japanese immigrants in the United States. The gender ratio of Japanese immigrants in America in 1900 was actually 21 Japanese males for every one Japanese female. Nevertheless, the passage of the Gentlemen's Agreement in 1907 was to bring about an influx of female Japanese immigrants. Although the Gentlemen's Agreement had terminated the admission of Japanese laborers into the U.S., it did allow Japanese non-laborers, such as the wives, children, and any other family of the Japanese laborers currently residing in the United States at the time. Because many Japanese immigrants were bachelors and could not afford to go back to Japan to find wives, many resorted to the picture bride method of marriage. This picture bride method of marriage involved an exchange of photographs between a Japanese male residing in the United States and a Japanese female residing in Japan across the Pacific Ocean. Each would exchange photographs of themselves, and once the family of the female agreed to the marriage, a legal ceremony would be conducted in Japan without the attendance of the groom to finalize the marriage. Once the marriage was finalized, the so-called picture bride, the woman which was to become the bride through this arrangement through pictures, was to sail towards America in order to finally meet her husband upon arrival to the U.S. Of course, many picture brides had doubts as to whether they are doing the right thing, but of course their motivations might have justified their actions. Some motivations they had was to work for money and send it back to Japan in support of their family. Another was to escape poverty in Japan, and yet another was out of duty to her parents who arranged the union. Still, the picture bride faced a few challenges when she reached the U.S. land. At arrival, U.S. immigration officials would conduct interrogations regarding the intent of her stay. They would ask her what she came over to do, and the picture bride would often respond by saying that she came to do housework only, and she was to become the housewife of her husband. Of course, she could not say that she would become a laborer because of the Gentlemen's Agreement, which banned labor from Japan from coming into the U.S. An interesting thing about the interrogations is that the interrogators never asked the Japanese picture bride of her status or work experience in Japan prior to coming to the U.S. The simple response of housewife was enough for them because that fit into their predisposed perception of what the woman's role should be in their society, and that gender role was as a housewife, which would clean and do domestic labor. Nevertheless, this was not in their favor of the brides, even though this did pass them into acceptance and admission to the U.S. Sometimes if the husband, who was also interrogated, was not of good financial standing, or he could not provide documentation for legal entry to the United States, both him and his wife were deported back to Japan, or just, well, sent back to Japan, should I say. Often, a lot of the Japanese brides also did not like their husbands. They were very disappointed upon meeting them, and they wanted to go back on the very boat from which they came. But a lot of them did stick through with it, and that is how families arose, Japanese families arose, and institutions got brought up in American society in regards to Japanese living. And in the end, this was very beneficial. The influx of so many Japanese picture brides, it leveled the gender ratio between male and female Japanese in the United States. Also, another point I want to make is that although they were supposed to be confined to housework, many of them did go into labor, such as doing the laundry for farm workers or farming alongside their husbands. Some of them even had their own restaurants or boarding houses, which they owned and managed. So some of them did stick through with this, and a lot of them did not even have the means to go back to Japan, even though they wished to do so. And I would like to show a clip of the process of becoming a picture bride and some struggles they faced once coming to America. Thank you.
いつ来たの？ほら見せて。男前でしょ、松地さんって。サトウキビ畑でもって働いてる人には見えないでしょ。
さて、私の方の顔を見てください。あなたの旦那さんになる人の顔を思い浮かべて。
ここにいるのがあなたの夫、木村松次です。相手の写真を出して確認してください。
年はちょっと何かの間違いだと思うんですけど。
これは友達の写真を使ったんでしょう。
お前何が考えてそんなことしてるんじゃ。
洗濯の仕事を覚えるのかなちゃんが教えてくれるから。
私仕事がする上に洗濯代を稼ぐっちゅうのか。バカなことするもんじゃなかよ。お前体が弱くじゃなかった。
見たでしょ、300ドル貯めればうちに帰ることができるって。
うちあ、寝ぼけたこと言うとるんじゃ。ここお前のうちやなかね。
ここは私のうちじゃない。
こっちは少しずつ故郷の苦しさは忘れたい。日本に帰ることは古か夢になってしまう。
私はあなたみたいにこんなところにしがみついてなんかいない。2つ仕事をやっていけば十分にお金だって貯めることが。
何をバカなこと言ってるんじゃ。